Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. Today I'm talking about, do you really want it to work out with your ex? Right? So the first thing I want to talk about is you need to think back to the end of the relationship, because one of the problems that a lot of people have when they are missing their ex, or they're, hoping that maybe things will actually work out with their ex and things are going to go back to normal at some point. One of the things that they do is they look back at the relationship with nostalgia. And because they're, looking back at the relationship with nostalgia, they're not getting a balanced view of the relationship, right? And it draws them to want to get back with their ex. It draws them to want things to work out with their ex, you see, right? But it's important to put, more emphasis actually on the end of the relationship and the gradual downhill of the relationship, right? And the reason why that is because that's more of the reality, right? That's the reality of what happened, right? You got to think back on, because, everyone has their honeymoon period, and usually in relationships, the honeymoon period is at the very beginning, and that's usually what people look back on when they've had a breakup. They think about the good times and how good things were before things went bad, right? Because they're very pleasurable memories, right? They don't want to look at the painful memories, the ones that were bad, So, but it's important that you do, right? Because that's the reality, right? Because what you got to remember is, what happened leading up to the breakup. What happened? What was going on? Was there arguments? Was there lots of tears? Was there lots of backstabbing? Was there lots of nasty comments towards each other? You've got to think about that, right? Because basically, if you two did actually end up back together, at some point, it's very, 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 very likely that you're going to get back to that place where everything felt bad, okay? So, another thing as well is that when two people tend to get back together after a breakup, right, they usually end up splitting up again in the future, right? It's very likely that, because basically what happens is two people get back together again after the breakup. They, they have a little bit of a good time, they have great makeup sex or whatever, and, everything feels good for like a few weeks or a few months, maybe even. And then what happens is that it slowly goes back to how it was before the breakup happened, right? And then they just break up again, right? And usually that is the last and final time that they break up, you see, right? So the breakup is probably going to happen again anyway, even if you do get back together. And then you would have just wasted your time. You'll need more time to get over it and all that. And you may even find yourself in the same position. And you don't want that, right? So don't look back at the relationship with nostalgia. You need to think back on the end of the relationship, right? And the downhill slippery slope that led to the breakup, right? That's more of the reality. That's more of what's actually going to continue to happen if you do get back together, okay? So another thing that I like, actually, is something that I like to ask people actually, and that is, were you thinking of a way out? When you were in that relationship, were you thinking like, oh yeah, I kind of miss my old life, I kind of miss being single, I kind of miss doing my own thing, this relationship's taking up so much of my time, I'm kind of thinking about a way out, kind of just like, reminiscing on how good it was to be single, and if you were doing that, then that's a good sign that it's best that the breakup happened, right? Because if you wanted to get an escape and you didn't grow together and you didn't basically create something better for yourself, right? And it was basically better to be in that relationship than it was to be single, then that's a good sign that you should not be getting back with your ex, and that you shouldn't want it to work out with your ex. Because if you wanted a way out then, where you was in the relationship, if you get back in a relationship with them, eventually you're going to start feeling that way again. Another good question to ask yourself is, was it as good as you remember, or are you just, again, feeling nostalgic? Right? So, because sometimes we look back on the relationship with nostalgia and we think about all the good times and we fail to look at actually all the bad times, right? So if you're just looking back at the relationship with nostalgia and it feels really good, then it's probably, and you're not basically looking at the bad stuff, then it's likely that, you shouldn't try to work things out with them. Because if there was a lot of bad going on, then it's just not a good idea to get back with someone, or to try and get back with someone if there was a lot of turbulence, right? Because like I said, that's what's going to happen again. That's what's going to reoccur if you keep on, if you get back in that relationship with them, you see. Another point is that, if you get back together, things are very unlikely to change. Because like I've said before in previous videos, is that, people are usually not very willing to work on themselves, right? You might be someone who is willing to work on themselves. You might be someone who, if someone gives you any criticism, you try and work on that, especially if you believe that it's true and it's something that needs to be stamped out, right? You might be someone who is willing to actually work on themselves, to improve, you may even, read lots of books on how to or maybe lots of articles and stuff, or you watch videos on how to have better and more healthier relationships, right? But what you got to remember is not a lot of people are like that, right? Not a lot of people are willing to work on themselves or to improve things for themselves, right? So you might be someone who's like that, but your ex probably isn't, okay? Right? And because it's only a small majority of people who are actually willing to work on themselves to get better, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. Because we all have this worldview, it seems, right? Whether it's because of the environment we grew up in, or just beliefs that we collected along the way through life, and we stick hold to those beliefs and we think, yeah, I know how to be a great lover. Yeah, I know how to be a great partner. I know what relationships should be like. And we get kind of really defensive about our romantic life, right? And we're very unwilling to change it, right? Because we feel like we know it all. We feel like we know the correct worldview on it, right? So you might be someone who's more adaptive to change, right? Like I've said, you might be someone who is actually willing to improve on your relationship skills, your communication skills, on your dating skills, right? You might be someone who's willing to do that. But because your ex, is probably one of the majority, right? They might not be actually willing to do that, right? And what I've learned is that actually very few people are willing to work on themselves, to improve, to get better, to understand relationships more, how to have healthier marriages, how to have, how to get better at dating, how to communicate better with my partner. Not many people are searching for those things because they feel like they already know, and it's because of what they've grown up with, it's what they've seen, and it's just what they truly believe, and they don't even realize that there's basically a whole other realm that they haven't even dived into that could actually really improve their relationships and improve their life. Okay, so that's something else to consider too. Okay, you got to realize that maybe it's just not going to work out. Maybe I don't even want it to work out, right? Secretly, it may sometimes feel like that because I get lonely, or you feel nostalgic towards the relationship. But in the reality of it, do you really want to get back with them? And most of the time, that answer should be no, even if it's deep down, it's not the right thing to do. Now, so when is the right time then to get back with an ex? So when is it okay to, try and pursue an ex, to try and get them back into your life? And I personally think that there's only usually really one way, and that is when the relationship, for whatever reason, ended due to a huge misunderstanding. And deep down that your ex is a good person, and that things were great, that let's say things were amazing, and then this misunderstanding happened and it kind of just blotched things. It could also be as well, there could have been a third party that kind of nestled in and kind of created that misunderstanding, right? So let's say they had a parent who never liked you, or they've got a friend who never liked you, and they're always kind of lying, saying lies about you to your ex. And your ex was a nice person and wanted to believe their friend, wanted to believe their family member, whatever, and they decided to break up with you because of this misunderstanding, even though you've done nothing wrong, right? Or it could be the other way around. Perhaps you broke up with them due to a misunderstanding, right? And it was just a huge mistake. Let's say, for example, that you thought they cheated on you, but they never did, right? These are all misunderstandings, right? And if you know that your ex was a good person, they've treated you right, they've been nice to you, right? And that's why it's important to look back throughout the whole relationship at your arguments about the things that have happened, the things that they've said to you, because if they've made you feel bad about yourself and they've made you feel horrible about yourself in the past, and things were not good and there was a lot of arguments all the time, then that's probably not the best relationship for you. That you've probably actually dodged a bullet. But if they never did those things, or if they did do those things, it wasn't very often, right? And like I said, it was just a huge misunderstanding that you two broke up, then that's, an okay time then to get back with an ex, to try and get your ex back. Because if it was just a misunderstanding and it was nothing really bad happened, because let's say maybe someone, like I said, someone got in between you two and started to feed lies, or they just believed something that just wasn't true, right? Then that's obviously a better sign that you should get back with your ex, okay? So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.ChristineLoveridge.com, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.